My MBA students are always asking me, what's the one book that will totally change how I see business? And my answer is always the same: financial intelligence. So today we're going to dive into it, but through a professor's lens. We're going to break down its really revolutionary idea that finance, it's way more of an art than it is a science. Let's get into it. Oh, come on. We've all been there, right? You're sitting in a meeting, a slide pops up, crammed with acronyms, and you just nod. You're hoping, praying that nobody calls on you. You see something like EBITDA or DSO or accruals, and your heart does that little jump. Well, here's the good news. The whole point of financial intelligence is to tell you you're not alone and it's not your fault. The book makes this fantastic argument that finance isn't some secret code meant for accountants. No, it's the language of business. And the goal here isn't to turn you into an accountant, but to make you fluent so you can join the conversation. And that leads us to what is, honestly, the book's biggest and most powerful idea. We're all taught to think of numbers as, well, as absolute truth. But what this book argues is that accounting is actually a craft. It's the art of using data that's often limited or even ambiguous to paint a picture of how a company is doing. Now, this is the part that really blows people's minds. Net profit. The bottom line. We see that number and think, okay, that's it, fact. But the book says, nope. It's fundamentally an opinion. It's just an estimate that's built on a whole series of other estimates. Think about that for a second. So where does all this art come from? It all comes down to assumptions. See, financial intelligence isn't about memorizing a bunch of formulas. It's about learning to ask the right questions. Questions just like these. These are the kinds of judgments that determine whether that final profit number is aggressive or if it's conservative. Okay, so if you want to understand that story, the book does a great job of simplifying the entire financial universe down to just 3 key documents. Let's break down how these 3 work together to tell you the complete narrative of a company. So first up, you've got the income statement. That tells you if you're making a profit. Then there's the balance sheet, which is like a snapshot, what you own versus what you owe at one specific moment. But the third one, the statement of cash flows, well, that's what the authors call the ultimate truth teller. And this quote, this is it. It's probably the most famous line from the entire book, and for a really good reason. It just perfectly explains why that cash flow statement is so important. Accounting rules, they have wiggle room. They allow for interpretations and estimates that can make profit look bigger or smaller. But cash, you can't argue with how much actual cash is in the bank. Cash is the reality check. So, okay, how do you actually manage this cash reality? Well, one of the best tools in the book is something called the cash conversion cycle, or CCC. All it does is measure the time lag between when you spend cash to make something and when you get cash back from your customer. The shorter that cycle, the healthier your business is. Think about it. A sales manager might close a huge deal that looks amazing for profit, but if they give the customer 90 days to pay, they've actually just hurt the company's cash position. Understanding that difference, that is financial intelligence. All right, now as a professor, I can't just rave about a book. We've got to put on our critical thinking hats for a second. This whole art of finance idea is super powerful, but how does it hold up under some real scrutiny? Let's take a look at the good and the bad of this approach. Okay, on the plus side, the book's approach is absolutely brilliant for bridging what we call the principal-agent gap. Basically, getting the owners and the managers on the same page by giving them a common language. It also lines up perfectly with modern behavioral finance, which recognizes that humans, with all our biases, are the ones making these numbers. But the weakness is that it can sometimes make it seem like the strict accounting rules, we call them GAAP, aren't that important. And looking at it now, the book is a bit of a time capsule. It's focused almost entirely on the financial numbers and pretty much ignores the huge rise of ESG, environmental, social, and governance metrics, which are a big deal today. Theory is great, but let's see how these ideas play out in the wild, right? We're going to look at 2 huge, famous examples. One company that totally mastered the cash versus profit rule, and another one that abused the art of finance idea with catastrophic results. Let's start with our hero, Amazon. For years, you had all these Wall Street analysts just freaking out because Amazon was barely reporting any net profit. They were convinced the company was failing. But here's the thing, Jeff Bezos was playing a totally different game. He was ignoring the opinion on the income statement because he was absolutely obsessed with the fact of cash flow. So how on earth did they do it? This is just a masterclass. They perfected what's called a negative cash conversion cycle. You click buy on Amazon and they get your cash instantly. But they didn't pay their suppliers for those books or electronics for maybe 60, even 90 days.
That gap created this massive, ever-growing pile of free cash, basically an interest-free loan from their suppliers, which they then turned around and used to fund everything from AWS to their logistics empire. It's genius.
And now, for our villain, WeWork. This is a perfect cautionary tale about taking the whole art of finance thing way, way too far. When they were getting ready to go public, they invented a financial metric that literally no one had ever heard of before: community-adjusted EBITDA. I mean, when you put them side by side, the difference in philosophy is it's night and day. Amazon's guiding star was a fact: cash. WeWork, on the other hand, took the art of finance to this absurd extreme. They made up a metric that stripped out core business costs, things like marketing, admin, even renovations, all to make their massive losses look like profits. Well, financially intelligent investors saw right through the fiction. And the result? Amazon became a global juggernaut, and WeWork's IPO absolutely imploded, wiping out billions of dollars in valuation almost overnight. So after all that, what does this actually mean for you? Because the real magic of this book is that it gives you a practical toolkit. So let's talk about 3 things you can do, like first thing Monday morning, to start putting these powerful ideas into action. Okay, first, stop celebrating just revenue. The next time someone announces a big deal, ask about the gross margin. A tiny 10% price cut can absolutely demolish your profit. Second, go ask your finance team about your days sales outstanding, or DSO. If that number is creeping up, it means your customers are taking longer to pay you, and that's a huge strain on your cash. And finally, be that person in the next budget meeting who interrogates the assumptions. Just asking, hey, what did we assume about bad debt? That one question can tell you so much about the real quality of the profit that's being reported. So I'm going to leave you with a final challenge, a professor's challenge, if you will. Go find your company's most recent statement of cash flows. Hunt down one specific line: cash flow from operations. Is that number positive? Is it getting bigger? The answer to that question will tell you more about the real fundamental health of your business than almost any other number you can find. It is the truth teller. So, what is your